Hi, I'm Kiyoka Koizumi from Leiden University. 私、ライデン大学の小泉と申します。よろしくお願いします。Yes, so this is actually the collaborative project with the Dr. Cosima Wagner. I'm not sure she's joining here online today, but we made the presentation together. That's what I would like to emphasize. And I'm presenting here on behalf. So here's the index, the outline of this presentation. And I think this, if you are working in university library, the most of the issues that I'm gonna present here today can be very familiar, but I'm just here to reiterate the issues, and then I just want some, yes, and that kind of reaction. So that's why I'm here today. I'm gonna briefly introduce myself. So in Leiden University Library, I'm responsible for technically like all the materials that are written or that has Japanese. So if you are familiar with Ex Libris Alma, I'm doing the transliteration and in 880 field. So if I receive the book from Japan, that's if it's only in Japanese, I have to transliterate to Hepburn romanization, Hebonshiki Romaji, and that's my main task. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here today because the last time was my first participation at EAJRS. And afterwards, there's like follow-up session by Egami-san. There's like a close talk on the webinar, and that's where I come to know Dr. Cosima Wagner, and then I contacted her, and because the presentation by her was I resonated with her. So then the topic of this year's EAJRS are announced, and I was like, oh, this is something we should do. So that's why I'm here today. So again, I'm very happy to be here. So the introduction, yes. So I'm gonna briefly contextualize the university library in the case in the Freie Universität Berlin and Leiden University. And yeah, already mentioned, yeah. So it's very tiny. I'm not sure. You can check it later, but overall, from this diagram, what I like to emphasize is that yeah, the science and technology studies and library information sciences and area studies are interrelated. And I myself sometimes feel very, how do I say, not lonely, but, あれ? すいません。Sorry. I feel like not lonely, but because I'm the almost the only one who does deal with this Japanese material. So I sometimes not, how they say, see the bigger picture. But if you look at this, it's actually very interconnected, especially like university that has Japan studies and also other studies that deal with different languages and scripts. And next slide. So this is the case for Freie University Campus Library as a multilingual area studies knowledge hub. As you can see, so this is not only by the language and study, but also the scripts. And if you look at the Japanese studies on the below, you can already see the different scripts within the language. So that's what I would like to go back later. But yeah, so I would say this is this very synonym, like this is very similar, this structure, or it's very similar to what's the case for Leiden University. And I assume that most of the university library or the libraries in like that has multilingual collection is also quite similar. And next is the Leiden's case, Leiden Institutes for Area Studies, LIAS, and EAS. And sorry, the letters are a bit tiny, but Japanese Studies is under the School of Asian Studies. And there's also separate institute, but also part of the Leiden University that is called the International Institute for Asian Studies. Yeah, so like you said, like I said, the organizational structure and research infrastructure may slightly vary, but there are a lot of like common grounds. So when it's come to multilinguality, and that's the context I would like to give here. So I think, I believe that everybody here would agree that multilingualism is important. But here I'm just, again, I'm here to reiterate the importance. I'm gonna introduce some quotes. Yeah, for example, I'm working in the Netherlands, and yeah, like even though you study only in Dutch, it's impossible to, I think, do the research only in Dutch. And there's always other, how they say, resources you needed. And also the library system we use is English. So it's very inevitable, so to speak, to conduct the research in academia. And yeah, but if that's not enough, I'm gonna introduce the recommendation from UNESCO regarding the culture and language as a dimension of sustainability. Here's the quote, open science definition, make multilingual scientific knowledge openly available, accessible, and reusable for everyone, and so that that can increase the scientific corroboration. And also a lot of scholars appreciate, quote, the meaning of language and discourse in sustaining cultural heritage and the world's languages and cultural diversity. It has been acknowledged that culture constitutes a part of social sustainability and covers such aspects as social justice and equity, social participation, economic needs and work, and above all, awareness of the range of sustainability idea. It's very statement sort of sentences, but I assume that you all acknowledge this importance. And then, where is the recept? Sorry, the on the yeah, that's the next, please. Next one. Oh. Yes. Yes. Could you hide the notes? Yeah, and the next one, please. Yeah, okay. So here's another statement from important authority emphasizing the importance of multilingual environments. So here's the benefit of multilingual digital cultural heritage is noted as being that people can access the information of other cultures and language groups. And it's followed by the point that multilingualism promotes socially inclusive society and mutual understanding of different cultures. Next slide, please. But here I would like to come back the difference between multilingual and multiscriptural. And if the case for the Netherlands I mentioned earlier, of course, you can say that you're, if you say, I'm a bilingual of Netherlands, Dutch, and English. But then I would say it's very different from being bilingual or multilingual of Japanese, Nihongo, and English, because when you acquire Japanese as a non-Japanese learner, you have to learn 3 different scripts. And that's something I always forget when I talk to someone who, for example, my colleague who doesn't know how Japanese language works, because we have hiragana and katakana kanji, and two of them are phonetic and one of them ideographic. So that's very different from being multilingual in Dutch and English and Japanese and English. So I would say Japanese, when you have when you learn Japanese, you have to be also multi-scriptural, sort of. Next, please. So yeah, I'm sure that I've emphasized enough the importance of multilingualism and multi-scripturalism, and I hope that everybody agree with me. And we see it everywhere in like statements and like also in relation to interdisciplinarity or multidisciplinarity. But what's the reality, and why is she holding heads like me on my workplace? So yeah, it's going to be quite a bit of jargon, but I'm going to read the quote. So here's what has been going on. The quote: "The meta-linguistic goals and algorithms of electronic communication, which are revolutionizing almost every facet of knowledge and production, of information and projection, are founded on a subtext, on a linguist prehistory, which is fundamentally Anglo-American, in the ways in which we may say that Catholicism and its history have a foundational Latinity. And computers and data banks, now it's also AI, chatters in dialects of an Anglo-American mother tongue." So this is the quote from like before 21st century, but I would say this is very, this is exactly what has been going on and the case for AI. So, but to sum up, basically the Anglo-American language dominate the research infrastructure, even for Japanese studies and other non-Anglo-American languages. And it has been developed centered around English, of course, and other major European language, written in alphabets. And then there's this conference to combat this kind of trend. And you can read this later because this is technically just reiterating what has been said before. But either way, it's very Anglocentric, and it has been marginalizing other language group, and that is going against the diversity and sustainability that has been recommended by other like UNESCO or Europeana academia as well. And furthermore, so this is this is basically what I'm saying. I'm here today. The sustainability of libraries and knowledge infrastructure, especially in the global north, should be challenged with regard to embracing more linguistic and geocultural diversity, as well as accessibility and discoverability in a library-specific context of the corrections. And unfortunately, language is one of the most important barriers instead of bridges that pose an obstacles to the sustaining of global knowledge diversity. So then here I'm going back to the issues in library-specific context. And here are the list of the issues, and I'm sure the librarian you're here today can add some more, but we don't have enough time to discuss everything. So I'm gonna focusing on the task I'm responsible for, and that's where the red circles are in. Yeah, so it's mostly about metadata and cataloging and the technical standards. And also, if you are familiar with or your library use the Ex Libris, I really encourage you to go to this Ex Libris Knowledge Center, because then you can see the search configuration for different languages. And then if you go to this page, you can see the first 5 scrolls is about Latin alphabet, 101 correspondence, for example, for the accent marks. For in German, for example, it's U and the umlaut, or like Macron. Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah. But then if you go further, 10 scroll more, and then you finally reach this CJK language section. It's very tiny, but please have a look at them later. And then you notice that, for Japanese characters case, there should be normalization of variant kanji characters. And I think this, I would take this as a slight difference between not kyujitai and the characters we use. But again, if you look at the link, there's a one-to-one correspondence for Latin scripts, but this is the only information you can see on Alma, and which I find it very, very like it's not only not specific, but also it's a bit of pity that there's no details information available. And I'm here to present very specific examples from the next slide. And I put some ninjas here because they do really sneak in the record I have to cut through easily. But as you can see from this is very common characters that occurs especially in academic literature. For example, 小説 like sets, 外説 overview, 天動説 and 江戸時代と and also 記録 of course record. But I think but even for native Japanese script user, it's very sometimes difficult to discern the differences. And yeah, and I learned it from my preceptor who has more experience in than I do. But then when I was first told, oh, these are three that characters you have to be careful with because the existing record tends to have these characters, but the existing record, but why this has been there for 10 years and why despite all this artificial intelligence, why this very simple issues hasn't been solved. But so this example is the original material does not contain kyujitai, but somehow record there's they change the character. I don't know why the records do. But then the next example is more complicated because it's very tiny, but it's PCC record, so I'm not allowed to modify basically. But this is the one of the materials requested from PhD candidate, and I got a question that I requested this book like months ago, but somehow I cannot find it. Why? And then I catalog it. I'm sure it should be available on loan. But then turns out because of this slight kanji difference, because she entered the normal on the right, but then original materials contain the, is this kyujita? Yes, so that's why it didn't yielded the result. And to be honest, I was kind of shocked to know this. This is again very basic, but this is very, I would say, compared to the other three characters I showed already, can be very minor issues, but still, it's also part of Joyo kanji, I would say. And then the only solution I could give to this very enthusiastic PC candidate is that, oh, you can look for the materials on by ISBN. But to me, this way of searching, because yes, if you look, because ISBN is unique, so for sure you can find the document. But then the whole point of library search is not just like finding the materials that you're looking for on the spot, but also coming across something relevant but you did not expect. So it kind of kills this serendipity. I myself also enjoyed, it's like an open stack if you looking for this book, but you also look at the other books next to it. So I believe that the library system should work in the same way, but unfortunately with this very basic inconvenience, it has been hindered this kind of joy. But to combat this, there is the on Alma, you can request the enhancement. It was been filed by Harvard University Library, and it was 2023. And it has been requested that improve support for diversity and equity through automatic handling of non-Latin data in 880 field, and etc., etc. But then still, we are, again, very minor in number. So you can vote for this enhancement, but we don't have enough as a Japanese librarian. Is a very low in number, so that this kind of, even if it has been filed, it tends to be postponed, and the Latin scripts updates are more prioritized, and that has been going on, I think, since the ALMA the system at the beginning, like and so what can and should we do? I personally, I'm here to, because I would like to, I'm the one who needs more input, but here are some suggestions which we think are important. Again, multilingualism, multi-scripturality is basic elemental that everybody has to know, even though you're not fluent or you don't know the language. You can leave everything later, but just to sum up, and there's a need to be update to the catalog and the discovery system, and also the consistent guidelines for transliteration for findability. And also the first point is very important, because even though, for example, in the meeting in my division, I try to talk about these issues, but if, for example, if your manager or if your dialect colleague don't know about how Japanese language works, I have to start from Japanese has 3 different scripts, and then they're like, oh wow, that sounds complicated, and then nothing can be done, and I experienced that myself. So again, please promote the multilinguality and multi-scriptuality to your colleagues, so that what you're going through or what has been the issue can be more understandable to those who do not know Japanese. This is the first point I was talking about. And the discussion and Q&A. But I brought one discussion point. How can EAJRS libraries and librarians collaborate in order to co-design more sustainable, multilingual, geo-cultural diverse knowledge infrastructures for digital scholarship in Japanese studies? Because I believe that because we are minor in numbers, so yoko no tsunagari is very important, I believe. But if you have other questions or comment, I would love to hear.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So now it's time for question and comment. 質問、コメントあればお願いいたします。
Thank you very much for the presentation. And I also definitely see your and Cosima's gripes with the job in this, rightfully so. Just to start the discussion a little bit, one thought I was having when you said, what can we do to change this? Many of our American colleagues have a background in library science or have been involved with cataloging at some point. I have not. And I know that many others in Europe have who work as librarians are not necessarily involved with cataloging. And I think from my perspective, the catalogers are the ones who are most suffering and aware of these issues, but they're often not taken seriously as conversation partners in the change. And I see a huge difference with the pre-conference workshop in SEAL, for example, where the catalogers are taken seriously and do get together on what needs to be addressed. So I think, just on a personal note, I should stand up more for the people doing the cataloging work, even if I don't understand the issues fully. You made your point that it does need to change. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your presentation. Not so much a question, but rather a comment from my own experience as a cataloger. So there are these QZTI records you mentioned, and well, what I came to see is that they are, at least on my screen, they are kind of blurry. I cannot really they are rendered differently than the normal Japanese characters. So whenever I see a Kyujitai character like this, a blurry character, I tend to correct them. But I was wondering if anyone else had this experience of encountering blurry characters that are not easily readable. So this is what I am doing all the time. And also, our cataloging data is fed to different meta catalogs also. And some of these catalogs have automatic normalization of Kyujitai, but some don't. And so the same record can be accessible in one catalog and not in another. And I think these are problems that are very relatable for a lot of people here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This issue is my library's cataloger boss saying, in future, we are just import from national libraries. This is a Library Congress that are thinking about not transcript. They just import Japanese, Chinese, Korean, because users know. I have to say, okay, maybe some user knows, but the student can't. And the people who work in the library can't help at all, the users. Yeah, but it costs money. Yes. So it is, some part of the American Library Congress people say, this is a really economical, good way to do. And my catalog leader is really believe Library Congress. So I was terrified. So anyway, your issue is also important, but more deeper. But if we missed transcription, so it becomes more difficult for many people to work. So if this issue comes up, we have to deny. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So please awake. If somebody say like that, just to be denied.
Now it's time to move to the next presentation. So thank you very much for your presentation.